Howdy folks, it's your friend Fishing with Dom, and today I'm going to share with you a few of my favorite lures that I use when I target white bass. Now, white bass are also referred to as silver bass or even sand bass in some parts of the country in Canada, and they are one of my favorite species to fish for. They're very, very easy to catch. There's always an overabundance of them. And if you're like me, I think they taste pretty good too. And I don't feel that bad for taking a couple every so often, because when you catch one, you catch 50. They swim in schools. They're very, very easy to catch. You can sight fish them very, very well. And you can find them anywhere throughout the country. Pennsylvania, Texas, South Dakota, Wisconsin. They've been introduced in Manitoba. And the warmer parts of the Great Lakes, like Lake St. Clair, and the lower end of Lake Huron, towards Port Sanilac and Lexington, you can catch a lot of silver bass, and I started doing it a couple of years ago. And I tell you what, I stumbled upon them by accident, and I really, really like fishing with them. We were fishing this harbor. We were down waiting. I was throwing the buzzbait out there, just clacking it back, and something kept hitting it and missing it. And I'm thinking to myself, what could that be? And then after a while, I ended up hooking into one, and then I caught another one. And before I know it, I'm thinking, oh, well, these fish, I realize, they're traveling in schools, they're trying to feed. Let me cast something out there, see if I can catch them. So I went out there with a little crankbait, kind of got it done. But I wasn't casting that far out. I wanted to cover a lot more ground. And over the past couple of years, I've been breaking down the science of casting to where silver bass could be hanging out at. Because a lot of times I'm fishing them from shore. And this is what I've got for you today. I've got 3 different lure categories. And these have all caught an insane amount of silver bass for me. First off, I'm going to show you spoons. I don't even use regular spoons when I fish for silver bass. I use ice fishing spoons. I can whip them out there. I can fish them high, buzz them back to the boat. You can't reel it fast enough for them not to be able to catch. They are fast swimmers. I can buzz it right underneath the surface. I can let it flutter and just jig it back to me. Color seldomly matters as long as you've got something out there. They are savages. They are 21 savage type of fish. If they have the opportunity to hit, they're going to go for what you have to offer. So I've got a variety of ice fishing spoons or vertical jigging spoons that I like to throw. This is the Bait and Knock Tackle Company, Swedish Pimple. This is in all my ice fishing videos. I have the PK Flutterfish, just a longer glow-in-the-dark spoon. I tie it on and I whip it out there. This has caught a lot of fish for me. I don't know too many people who like PK lures. My buddy Captain Brandon Stanton likes them a lot too, and he catches a lot of walleye with these through the ice. But these hooks are quality hooks. When I'm beating this lure up against the rocks and trying to catch some fish with it, it gets the job done. It helps me catch a lot of fish. Some other spoons I got going on here. The Johnson Splinter is a good, easy one. And then the Acme Castmaster. You can get these at Walmart for $3 or so. I get them in the 1/4 ounce, the 1/8 ounce. Those are the 2 sizes I fish most of the time. And just silver, sometimes blue. I'm not too gung-ho into the colors, but this is fine. This bait's about 1 1/4 inches long. Got a tiny little, probably size 8 treble hook on the end. What I've been doing in the past, I'll take off the treble hook sometimes and just put a longer and larger single shank hook on the end. Because when those fish come up and they hit this, they can get this treble hook pretty deep and pretty sticky really, really fast. I've actually lost several of these spoons to silver bass because they'll swallow the entire spoon, and they have little sandpaper teeth, and that wore through my line after a while, and I felt really bad about that. So I decided to fish with line that is a lot more abrasion resistant, so that can't happen. And with a single shank hook, I'm not going to hook them as rigidly. I'm going to make a better connection that's easier to remove. But all in all, sometimes I still like to fish with the treble hook. Just some days they'll just overdo it, if you will. I'll take salmon yarn sometimes and decorate the treble hook with it, so when it's swimming it looks like this minnow. It's got a little flash to it. It's got some red hanging off the tail, shaking around a bit. It does a little bit for me, and sometimes I think it makes a difference, especially during the day in the midsummer when they're not as ravenous about eating. It might take a little coaxing. This is like during the middle of the day, but once the sun starts to set, then it's game over. You'll see them breaking the surface all over the place. But these spoons, treble hook, or if you replace it with a single shank, get the job done. But as I just said, these silver bass, when the clock strikes midnight on their Cinderella story, and it's time for them to feed, you're going to see multiple fish chasing minnows through the harbors, or the inlets, the feeder streams, or whatever. And they're just going hard at gorging themselves on their next meal, because they hunt in schools. They chase down the minnows, then they just buzz them off the surface if they can. When you see that happen, it's like sight fishing for them, but you're not really seeing the fish. I keep my eyes peeled really, really well when I'm fishing a specific harbor. Actually, everywhere I silver bass fish, especially in a specific harbor, I'll be fishing out in front of me, but then out of the corner of my eye and over here, I'm constantly looking around to see if they're breaking the surface. Because if they're breaking the surface about 50 yards down, that gives me enough time to run down there to a good distance and cast to them. And when it comes to getting a lure that can cast to them very well, especially if they're honed in on topwater feeding, I like to use popper baits. Now, go bigger if you can for a popper. This is a Booyah popper. I forgot the name of it, but they'll smash this bait and they'll hook themselves. I promise you that. This is a smaller Rapala Skitter pop. It's only about a 2.5-inch model. They'll damn near have this entire lure in their mouth, and the treble hooks, they're not going anywhere. I like to jump the gun a little bit on the hook set when it comes to the smaller pop baits, just because if I let them take this, they're going to have it in their throat, and I don't want to hurt any fish that I don't want to have to sacrifice to eat. So, topwater baits, even if it's the middle of the day, you can call them in, because those fish are looking for their next opportunity to strike, and the surface of the water, that's their largest window of opportunity. If they're all down there in their pack hanging out, and that bait just comes chugging along the top, they're all going to see it, and it's going to be game over. They'll go a long way for a bait. And if you see them schooling in general, and you throw this in the school, around the school, give it 2 seconds, and it's going to be in a fish's mouth. So, it's Booyah popper, solid bait. I don't remember the name of it right now, but I'll post it in the comments section below. Rapala Skitter pop. You can go with different walk baits, different Rebel poppers. Topwater, excellent way to catch silver bass. But when I first started getting into silver bass fishing, like right after I realized they were striking my buzzbait and missing them, I was throwing jig heads at them. Now, this was probably early August, late July, right after the silver bass have been hanging out in their summer grounds for a while. They're not spawning whatsoever. They're just chilling in the harbor, living out their summer life, and eating minnows, or what they think are minnows. So, I'll fish a 1/4 ounce or an 1/8 ounce. It depends if it's weedy or not. If I need to fish a little bit deeper, I'll fish the 1/4 ounce. But my good friend Andy Rue Woodman, he told me that one day when we were fishing, he was fishing an 1/8, I was fishing a 1/4, and he was just kicking my butt out there on the water. And the difference was between the weight, he was fishing his, he had the gulp minnow and I had a twister tail on. The body of what you have on the jig doesn't really matter. It's the idea of getting them something they can eat. Focus on that. But he was fishing above the weeds. I was kind of fishing through the weeds a little bit, and I'd catch a few here and there, and I was struggling to keep it up where the fish were. But he was fishing lighter, and it was getting the job done for him. And even though it's an 1/8 of an ounce, you could still fish it kind of deep, jig it back to you. You can buzz it right underneath the surface with no trouble whatsoever. It might be a pain in the butt with the quarter. It might seem like you're reeling it pretty darn quick. But all in all, jigs, twister tails, put a worm bait on there, put a different style of minnow bait on there. They catch fish, definitely. You don't even have to do anything too fancy with them. You can get cheap twister tails. You can get old tackle worms and just throw them on there and go for it, because those silver bass are hungry. They're going to go for whatever's available. So there's just 3 different lure categories that I personally use for silver bass. If you have any experiences fishing for silvers, let me know in the comments below, especially if you've done it in Michigan, because you and I have probably crossed paths once or twice here in the Great Lakes state. I'm not kidding. There have been days where I've had good days, but my buddy Andy, he's caught 200 in one session before, and I've hit the 100 mark before, and man, your arms are just tired. You cast out there, you reel through them, it's just one after another. They move into the shallows during the spawn, and you follow the birds, because the birds are feeding on the minnows, and so are the fish. So it's a bad time of year to be a minnow. And you just cast them, and you catch one after another. It's absolutely insane. If you ever get the chance to do it, the Canadian side of Lake St. Clair, the American side of Lake St. Clair, USA, do it, because it's a lot of fun to be having. It's kind of overlooked, not a lot of people target them, and they're really easy to catch. They're a lot of fun too. So if you have any comments, suggestions for future video ideas, in a couple of months here, the date is January 5th, I'm gonna head down and do some silver bass fishing towards the middle of May, maybe the end of May, and get a real nice video for y'all. It's going to be a great time, I promise you that. But until next time, thank you for watching Fishing with Dom. Take it easy.